As I mentioned previously, you can use the Competency Model Clearinghouse as a source of information for creating program-level learning outcomes that reflect industry feedback regarding the required knowledge, skills, and abilities for particular occupations. Click on the link in the Student Learning Outcomes Overview section to access the Clearinghouse Generic Building Blocks Competency Model. To the left, you will see links for specific industries where models have already been constructed. If we click on Information Technology, we see a model with industry-wide technical competencies in the fourth tier. If I click on any of these competencies, such as databases and applications, I will see a definition and list of critical work functions. I could review the list of critical work functions and use my judgment and discipline knowledge to choose items that can be adapted for program-level outcomes and course-level outcomes. For example, the first critical work function statement seems broad enough to be a program outcome. I might modify it to state, apply fundamental concepts of database design and database architectural strategies to fit business or industry requirements. Other statements that are more specific can serve as course outcomes, such as be able to create and query a database. I might change it to students will create and query a database. If I am using this model, I will need to be selective about the competencies that are most critical to the occupation and that can be addressed within the scope of my curriculum. Just within the competency of databases and applications, I could create several programming course outcomes. Some may be unnecessary in my program, while there may also be areas that are missing that I would fill in. Going back to the model pyramid, I can see that there is more than enough information to flesh out an entire program. We can also see, when we look to the links to the left under Exploring Industries, that some industries are not represented. In that case, I can use the generic building blocks competency model to locate occupation descriptions for my purposes. So if I were to click in the occupation-specific requirements space, I can search for an occupation based on any number of criteria. I will choose to search by job zone, which is an indication of the level of preparation needed. I will choose for considerable preparation needed. This corresponds to the bachelor's degree level. Even though the search returns a long list, I know that all the occupations will require a level of education corresponding to the level of my degree program. I can browse the list till I find an occupational title that is most appropriate for my program. Note the yellow right outlooks icon next to some of the occupations. This signifies a projected large number of job openings. For purposes of illustration, I will choose accountants. I can view three types of information for this occupation: summary, details, and custom. The summary view lists the most common tasks, tools and technology, knowledge, skills, abilities, work activities, work context, and it also includes information that confirms for the job zone that the level of education required is at least a bachelor's degree. Now, some of the information provided on these job summaries is for individuals who are exploring different occupations to see if they match their own temperament and preferences. So we can focus on the work activities, knowledge, skills, abilities, and work tasks. As you review the knowledge, skills, and abilities in the work activities for an occupation, Keep in mind that the descriptions are standard across all occupations that include the same KSAs. This is why they will seem somewhat generic, while the tasks are more specific. As in the example from information technology, judgment will be required to select the most important KSAs from this information. The detail view can be helpful in this regard. It identifies the degree of importance on a 100-point scale of the tasks, knowledge, skills, abilities, and work activities for the occupation. This enables you to focus in on those that score higher on the importance scale. The custom view gives you control over what information you want to display based on the criteria that you select. For example, in the tasks area, you could choose to display items based on the frequency with which they were identified on the surveys used to collect this information, rather than on an importance scale. So I can make that selection and click the Go button, and I'll see displayed the tasks categorized by or including a rating of frequently, occasionally, or rarely, meaning that those tasks were identified frequently 45% of the time, occasionally 45%, and rarely 10% of the time. If I use this criteria, then I can disregard tasks where the majority of responses indicated those tasks are rarely important. So I may go back and choose to select the information that I want to display to include knowledge, skills, abilities, and work activities, but to disregard the other categories. And I can check or set the importance scale at whatever threshold I want. So I may leave tasks at 50%, but I may raise the scale on knowledge, skills, and abilities to 60%. And then I click Go, and that returns my selection based on my criteria. So once I'm satisfied with my selections, I can choose to generate Excel tables for each of the sections. So if I click on the link there, you can see an example of an Excel table that will open that displays that information for the tasks category. Now note that I would have to do that for each section individually, but I could build a spreadsheet that would combine all of this information. And I can do the same thing in the detail view. I can choose to generate Excel files, or I might just decide that I want to print out that page and have all the information in one place. So as in the case of the information technology example, some of the occupational information may be adapted as program outcomes, while other information may be specific enough to be course outcomes. So if we go back to the summary view and look at the first item in tasks, for example, this could be a program outcome. Students will prepare, examine, or analyze accounting records, financial statements, or other financial reports to assess accuracy, completeness, and conformance to reporting and procedural standards. Now, if I look down further to the third task on that list, this is specific enough to be a course outcome. Students will establish tables of accounts and assign entries to proper accounts. So, looking again at the knowledge, skills, and abilities, one point to keep in mind, particularly about the skills and abilities, is that many of them will be addressed within the liberal studies component of a program. However, faculty may decide that some skills need further reinforcement within the degree core. One example within the accounting discipline would be mathematics. There may be activities at the course level throughout an accounting program that build skills for the types of computations that would be involved in the preparation of financial statements. Therefore, Course outcomes may embed these skills within statements that are specific to a profession. For example, students will calculate depreciation of capital assets using accepted accounting standards. This would also apply to skills such as critical thinking or judgment and decision-making or complex problem-solving, which require time to develop fully to the extent that you would expect at the bachelor's level. So again, you want to think about rephrasing those skill statements so that they are embedded within discipline-specific statements, perhaps at the course level. So although the amount of information available through the competency model Clearinghouse can seem overwhelming, it can be a useful resource for providing a context within which program outcomes can be refined and aligned with occupational competencies.